morning, and I hope you are doing well wherever you are today. We are here to talk about Confluence space admins. In a few months, this will get even more confusing because Jira will also have space admins, but we're not here to talk about Jira. So, want to welcome you all to the training. This is one I haven't done for a little while, and I have expanded. So I've made this one 90 minutes. We are going to have a 45-minute chunk at the start, a 5-ish minute break, and then about a 40-minute chunk at the end. So we'll get a little break in the middle to grab some more coffee, do that kind of thing. Dom, welcome from France. Good to see you. I'll remind folks there are now apparently fans in the chat. You can earn points to become the top fan for this chat just by chatting. So if you want to earn a little crown, by all means. Rodney, we are everything is in space technically, so we are definitely admins in space in addition to being space admins. Well, many of us. I won't assume everyone is a space admin. We'll give folks just another minute or so to keep popping in. And I'm going to have another quick sip of coffee. A bite, welcome. Good to see you. All right, and we're going to get this show on the road. We'll follow the normal pattern. We'll have some slides. Now, because this is a bit longer, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of slides and wait to get hands-on until the end. We'll do some slides, get hands-on, some slides, get hands-on, some slides, get hands-on. So we'll build up our hands-on portion as we go by applying what we're learning in the concepts and in the ideas as we move through this. So you won't have to wait until the end. Also, I'm changing up, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, how I track things. Welcome to Chad, one of my official coffee sponsors. Glad you're here, my friend. I have some other ways we can interact in the chat to make this a little bit more interesting for folks. All right, got about 20 folks. Excuse me. And, my head's in the way. Here we go. By quick way of introduction, my name is Rob. I've had my career in various parts of IT. Started out as the IT help desk worker. And in that job, I found myself writing down a lot of documentation, making a lot of, it was SharePoint that I used, a lot of SharePoint documents to help support the team. And this got me into knowledge bases, knowledge management, that kind of thing. I've been using Atlassian specifically since about 2013. I hold several of the Atlassian certifications. I'm working on others. You can see me Mondays and Fridays studying for them. But my career spanned different parts of IT, mostly working with HR teams. And I became a space admin fairly early in my Confluence journey because I was looking for a way to improve how my team was working. And there was no one person who wanted to be the space admin at the time. So I kind of tripped into it. I accidented myself into becoming a space admin. Good morning, Sarah, another one of my wonderful coffee sponsors. Good to see you, my friend. Now, YouTube is great because you can see and hear me. It's hard for me to see and hear you, though, so please use the chat. Many of you have already found it. It's over my left shoulder. There are going to be a few other ways you can interact, though. For example, I can put a poll into YouTube, which I'll do right now. That you can just then click on the answer. So in this case, have you been in a session with me before? You can just click yes or no, and then that'll give me feedback on that question. And just said Rodney's on the moon. So be on the lookout for these little polls popping up in the chat, just to kind of get you more engaged and give you something to do. The other thing I can do is add in a Q&A. So you'll also see a Q&A come up. You have about Confluence. Now, I've started using the Q&A, and I'm almost on the fence about it, but I use it because it allows me to collect questions. Good morning, Naveen. Good to see you. And so the Q&A will store all the questions, and then I can see them, and I can then go through that to answer them. Now, I'll do my best to answer every question in here live on the chat, and I'll have Q&A just before we get hands-on or during hands-on. But if I can't answer them all, I grab a screenshot of those questions and I'll go answer them later for you. So these are two other ways to interact in the chat. Please drop in and interact with each other, ask questions, help each other out, but also be on the lookout for those polls. And it looks like many of you have been here with me before, and I'll just close that one. And you also have that ability to ask questions. Now, this is also YouTube, and now that I'm more of a professional YouTuber, which is kind of crazy to say, um, please remember to like and subscribe. So please hit that like button, and I'll remind folks as we go. I hopefully won't be too annoying about it. Please tell me if I am. But liking this video helps other people find it, helps other people benefit from this information. And I guarantee you there are other people that you know and many people you don't know who will benefit from this kind of thing. So please hit the like button if you have a minute and if you like it. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'm going to start doing more regular videos. And you can also share this. So if you have someone in your organization who could benefit, please click on that share button and that'll let you send the video to them. Again, when I started being a space admin, I had no training. I would have loved to have had a 90-minute overview of what it meant and what I could do. So a quick agenda. This is again split into two halves. We'll have about a 40-minute session just talking about what's a space and how space admins consider them and the different permissions that exist in templates. And then the second half will dig more into features and tools that space admins use specifically. Keep in mind too, we will talk about this, but being a space admin isn't just about knowing the buttons to push. There is more to it than just having technical knowledge of the system. So we'll also discuss topics around that to understand how do we as space admins fit into our team, fit into Confluence, that kind of thing. So the first question is, have you ever been a space admin? I guess a better question is, have you ever known you've been a space admin? It is possible to have this access and just not know about it. To my knowledge, you don't get a special notification. Your avatar in Confluence doesn't get a special icon. You just have this access, and unless you know how to go use it, it's just there. And so I can imagine situations where someone has this ability and just isn't using it because they don't know about it, which is its own challenge and own consideration. So I'll leave that poll up for a bit. As I've mentioned, before we dig into the things a space admin can do, please keep in mind being a space admin is more than just the features. Knowing what buttons to push and what they do is incredibly important because you have access to these tools, but you are also a guide and an advisor. Chad likes to flaunt the fact that he's a space admin to his team. How does that make them feel, Chad? You have phenomenal power, and then you just lord it over their head. Being a space admin means you also typically have more knowledge of Confluence, so you can be a guide. You can help your team expand and grow how they use it. Now, just keep that in mind as you go. Don't hoard this information, but also we will talk about ways we as space admins can help educate the team and empower them. Also, if you have Confluence and are a space admin, you can follow along. So if you have another window or something, you can have that up. So first, when we talk about space admins, we have to talk about spaces. And it looks like more than half of us have been a space admin before, which is pretty neat. Now, spaces are just a way to organize information in Confluence. And that's what they are at their core. And there's different ways they do this that we'll talk about. But how they're used can impact how we as admins interact with them or think about them. So when I consider, I'm a space admin, the type of space I happen to be administering or the type of team I'm working on might change how I work with that team or how I interact with them. Now you're going to ask yourself why spaces. This is more of a general Confluence question, but they give you that ability to organize things. And this is another important aspect of being a space admin. You can be very passive and just wait for someone to come tell you, hey, I accidentally deleted a page, I need help. Or you could be very proactive and help organize it and keep it maintained. And so as a space admin, we need to understand that the space is a way for our teams to work better. And we as space admins can tie directly into that just by being proactive and being knowledgeable of the system by learning how all the pieces work, which is what we're doing here. Now, I've mentioned there's different ways spaces can be used. There's no real wrong way. I haven't seen someone use it bad. I've seen them used not most effectively, but any way your team chooses to use them. That said, there's 4 major types in my mind. We've got global, team, project, and personal spaces. And again, how each of these impacts me as an admin is different. Global spaces tend to be accessible to everyone in my organization. My human resources team will typically have a global space with all of my company policies or team onboarding or something like that. And because these are visible to everyone in an organization, a whole company, they tend to have a higher burden on the admin. They tend to get more attention. They tend to get more focus from people who want to make sure it's set up properly, that it's maintained, that it looks clean, that it doesn't have extra content floating around, and that things like access are much more tightly controlled. So if you're a space admin in a space like this, you're probably spending more of your time managing it than other types of spaces. Now, you also have team spaces, and this is how I got into being a space admin. The human resources people operations team had their own space. It wasn't intended for the whole company to use, but it was intended for the people operations team, a subset of HR, to share specific information about what they're doing. Now, it was open to the company, but it was mainly intended for the other people in people operations to operate. And this became a bigger administrative burden on me simply because no one had managed it. The people ops team had a lot of stuff going on, and I kind of accidented into becoming the admin because I looked at it and I said, I can't find anything in here. I need to go fix this, and I found out how to become a space admin through that. And so these can have a higher burden. It depends on the team. So if you find yourself supporting a team space, you might find yourself deeply involved or somewhere in the middle, or maybe not at all sometimes, depending on what the team needs. Now, your involvement as an admin can also differ based on how knowledgeable and engaged the team is in Confluence. So sometimes you'll get very, very lucky, and you'll have a team that works in Confluence that just keeps things maintained and managed as much as they can. Rodney, it is. There is no college course on becoming a Confluence admin, I must say. Now, there's also project spaces, and these contain information on a specific project. And these will have shorter term use because the project will expire, but can be super high visibility. And for me, these are the most burdensome to administer just because they get turned on quickly. They have to be used and burned out in a short period of time. And depending on the project, there can be a lot of eyes on them. So when I have a project manager or when I'm working on a project that needs a space, I set aside a little bit more of my time and energy to go through and help maintain and set these up, only because they tend to have a higher visibility, higher stake in my organization than the other types of spaces. I also use these if there's a project manager to train them on how to be a space admin. So again, as an admin, I'm not just doing the thing, I'm enabling the project manager to do the thing. So I don't have to be a blocker, but also so I don't have to use all my time setting up their space for them. And last, we have personal spaces. You may have one of these in your organization. The usage can vary wildly depending on the team, but typically it's a lower burden for admins because it's just for Rob or just for Chad or just for Amy. They're a great place to practice. And if you have a personal space right now and can open it and follow along, I highly recommend you do that. This is where I really learned how all the tools worked. Because it was my own personal space, I could go play around and make my own templates and delete stuff and archive things, and it didn't matter. Now, spaces are created with a create space button. Typically, I don't have access to this. Many orgs will restrict this. So when we consider being a space admin, we typically can't make our own space. We're reliant on a site or app admin to go do that for us. So if you have this menu, please use it carefully. The reason most organizations restrict it is so we don't end up with 15 spaces all called support. I've been in organizations that have multiple spaces with the same name, and it's impossible to know which one is the real one, like which is the one that people should be using, and which ones are kind of extras or don't be needed. There are some other things we can do with spaces, like organize them. As we make a space together, you'll kind of see some of this, and you also get some templates. So when you first join a space, you might end up with some things in there. So we're going to pop into Confluence Cloud Premium, and that's the platform we'll be using for this. Everything I show you will be done in Confluence Cloud Premium, and everything I walk through today is available in every version of Cloud. If something differs, I'll call it out. I'm pretty sure most of this is also true in Data Center if you're in that. So just a quick caveat. Superhuman access. What do you mean by superhuman access, Amy? I'm just curious. So we have a quick scenario. We're new to JQuil, that's JQL Industries. That's how I pronounce Jira Query Language, or at least the acronym. we don't know what's in Confluence, but we've been asked to make a new space for the finance team. So we're going to take some time to jump in and explore Confluence and then make a space for finance so they have a platform to work in. Oh, and I forgot my teleport slide. There we go. So here we are in Confluence, and just taking a look at our spaces. If I click on View All Spaces, we'll get this big list of them. And I can see right away that there are some personal spaces. They're just the person's name and a bunch of other ones. So one of the first things I do when I join an instance or when I'm a space admin is just see what else exists. And I do this to make sure I don't accidentally create another space, or if there's a space that looks interesting, I can go in there and just see how they work. One of the most useful things I have done around Atlassian is just talk to other people. So I find other people in my organization to go learn from or share ideas with, just to see what's going on. And Rodney, yes, I'll pop that. Let me get that chat up real quick. That is one of the first things I do when a team comes to me and says, hey, I need you to change something or make a space. I double check because it's possible they don't know it already exists. Maybe the finance team already has a space. And I should probably have checked this before. No. Okay, good. But this is where if you haven't been at the organization since it started, it's possible things are already set up or already exist that you just don't know about. So what I'm going to do is create a space. And again, you may or may not have this access. It also shows up under the Create button as space. Now, when we make a space, I think I saw a question, can you not have a space admin? Amy, I don't think that's possible. What we're going to do today, though, is try to break it. When you make a space, you are the space admin, as well as any default roles that get added. So I'm going to see if we can remove everyone just for giggles. I need to give this space a name. Now, as the space admin, we'll take a look at this. We can change the name. So maybe the finance team wants us to call it something different. Okay, fine. I'll pick the little wallet icon. And then I get these different purposes. Personally, these don't make too much of a difference to me. It gives you kind of a template to start with, which can be useful. Now, these default permissions are also important to consider. We'll dig into permissions. I'm going to set this as default just so we can see what happens when we start. We will come back and talk about these features. We as admins can change them all. And I'll just click Create. Now, you might have to ask your IT team to do this. It's important that you understand the process, though, if you need to become a space admin or need a new space, just so you can help IT. I have worked in places where the person who has the access to do this doesn't know how to do it. So I've had to kind of guide them through the process. So now I have my brand new space. I can see it's called Finance. And this is the new, I guess it's now just the only UI. But you'll notice all the UI options are on the left now instead of the top. So I might fumble a bit. Old habits die hard. I'm going to go into Space Settings. And right here under Space Admins is where I can see all the admins. Everyone can do this. If you can see the space, you can find the admins. But here I can see all of these people have admin access by default. Now I can go through and try and remove them. And we'll talk more about this permission screen shortly. But I got rid of those. Oops. Okay, I've unchecked everyone with space admin. And we broke it. Interesting. Now, there are folks, like, I imagine an org admin could come in and fix this for us, but we've just removed all the space admins. I'm going to do a follow-up to figure out what actually happens when this happens. It's good to know that it's possible. Typically, systems won't let you do this. So I'm going to pop over to another space where I am the space admin. But thank you for asking that question, Amy. That was unexpected, I will say. All right, actually, I'm just going to go make a new space and just call it Finance 2. And this is exactly why you don't want just anyone making spaces, because you'll end up with Finance 1, Finance 2, Finance 3. Now we have a space for finance. Now, before I would give it to the team, I would want to sit down and talk with them and understand what do they need it for, what else do they have to do in here, because that will help guide me in terms of what are the other topics and things I need to do. But I'm going to pop back into my space settings, and we're just going to quickly take a look at what exists. Excuse me. Right at the top, we have this thing called mission control. Later on, we're going to look at a space with content, but this is some great metrics. Mission control, I believe, is only in premium and higher. So you won't see mission control if you're on standard or free. We've got external features. This is really important to just be aware of, and one of the first things I look at, because this will tell you if guest access is turned on, so non-licensed users essentially, and if public links and anonymous access are allowed. These allow anyone on the internet to access content, and so I'm always making sure I know is this turned on or not, just so I can make sure people don't accidentally share something that's sensitive or I don't want to get out. At the bottom, I get some activity information, and again, right now, brand new space, it's empty. But these are all metrics I would come look at as the space is moving and evolving to see how it's being used. So again, space admin isn't just about knowing where the buttons are. It's about coming in here and reviewing, okay, how much views are we getting? How frequently are we updating content? Do I have to go talk to the team about updating their content more frequently because it's getting stale and old? The features and the areas of being a space admin are then broken out into sections. We've got general stuff, and again, we'll dig into almost all of these as we go. But these include things like the features in the space, the ability to export the space, send the whole thing to the trash. And in Atlassian products, anywhere you see send to trash, know that deletion is permanent. If I delete something in Jira or Confluence, it's gone forever in cloud. So please be very, very careful about these red send to trash buttons. Space access is where I spend most of my time as an admin, and that's because most people are asking for help. How do I do something in the space? How do I get in? How do I become a space admin? And we'll talk about permissions, I think, later on in this half. These guest and anonymous access areas are the important ones for controlling the space. For example, if I turn this on, I can allow any one of you on YouTube to come in and see this information, which may or may not be a good or bad thing. So just for giggles, let's turn this thing on. We've got information about content that we'll dig into. And then look and feel, honestly, for me, I don't touch on very much. And that's because I haven't used it and it scares me. So this is where my own experience kind of falls flat. I haven't used themes, for example. I haven't used the PDF export. I haven't touched layout. But as a space admin, I know where they are, so if someone asks, I can go jump into them. We've also got templates, which we'll dig into in just a moment. And then at the bottom, different integrations. What kind of applications are linked, RSS feeds, and then Slack notifications if those are set up. I think I already asked that question, so I'll skip it. So again, as a space admin, we can modify all the access, we see advanced analytics and enable features. You saw me briefly do this, but a space admin is just anyone with this particular permission called admin. If you don't have this, you're not a space admin, and apparently we can revoke all the space admins, and then there are no space admins, which is interesting. Ioana, I hope I'm saying that right. I just saw this comment. A comms person who likes Confluence, you just became the admin for most spaces. Yes. And to that bit on the end there, most businesses don't have a clear plan. Many places I work, even larger companies, don't clearly define things like what are space admins supposed to do. And that's where it typically falls on the few individuals who step up or the few individuals who happen to get the access to kind of help out and to push for it. And that's where just knowing how the buttons work can be very important. Knowing how to become a space admin, for example. Again, I've worked with people who didn't know how to do this. And so hey, go and make me a space admin, just click this button, I'll take care of the rest. Or I'll show you how it works. Now, space admins can do a whole bunch of things. We control access to the space. This is the big one that most people think of. They allow people into the space. They can allow them to do things or not. But space admins also get templates. We'll talk a little bit about templates here. I have an entire hour training specifically on using templates. I think they're incredibly important, but as space admins, we are the gatekeepers to them. We can manage them and make them and turn them on or off. So that's something I tell my team quite a bit. If you need templates, come to me, I'll help you out. But we can also control features. So we have that mission control feature, for example, that gives us analytics and information about the space. We can also do things like turn off the ability to use whiteboards in the space. And so that can be incredibly frustrating. Team members don't know that. They have to go to a space admin to turn it on. And as I've mentioned, and as I'll keep mentioning, we provide guidance. And I just reminded myself, if you like this stream so far, please click the like button. That'll help me out, help other people find it. It takes just a moment, and it's right under kind of the middle of the screen, I think. Now, again, permissions are one of the biggest things admins are responsible for, and stereotypically, that's what admins do. Like when I think of an admin, I go, oh, they do permissions. And this is where they can be confusing. Confluence and the Atlassian team is working on changing how Confluence permissions work. It's not live yet, so I won't talk too much about it. But currently, we'll get all of these checkboxes. And these checkboxes are what allow you to turn on or off permissions for a certain person or a group of individuals. And we'll go through live and start tinkering with these. But basically, if there's a check mark, they will have that permission. If they don't have the check mark, they won't. Now, there are some important callouts. You'll notice in this list, there's pages, whiteboards, and databases, add, archive, delete. There's no edit. Edit is included in the add permission. So if I can add a page, I can edit pages. So just something to keep in mind. I'm not certain why the nice people at Atlassian chose to do that, but our controls are not as granular, as fine, as specific as we might like. Also, oddly, blogs are their own thing. You'll notice that there's blogs separate from pages, whiteboards, and databases, which I just get a kick out of. I'll talk more about permissions as we go, but also keep in mind there's a delete and an archive. We'll talk about these specific features, but typically I don't give people delete just so they don't accidentally delete something, because if they do that, they have to come to me, the space admin, to undelete it. Rodney, I think it's going to be close to permission schemes. It'll be more like role-based, RBAC, role-based user access controls. Here's a fun question. Anytime I see an acronym and someone doesn't define it, I always get to make up the answer. So if you want some fun, make up what does RBAC stand for. Now within the space admins can also turn off and on specific features. And these are what they mean by features. So you can disable blogs within your space, for example, or databases, or apps, or any of these, just by clicking the rocker. We briefly saw this when I made the space. You can always come in and turn them back on. I tend to turn off the content types I know my team won't be using, or the space doesn't need. For example, if I know my team will never use a blog, I just turn it off. Same thing with calendars. And again, blogs are a feature, not a content. Interesting. All right, so this lets you tailor it. It cleans up the sidebar a bit, so it makes it a little bit easier for people to use the system, which is something else that we as admins need to consider. When people come in, it should be easily accessible, and it shouldn't be cluttered. A real bad account creator, I like that one. Radio broadcasted Apple control. Ooh, so something around farming. I'll put the actual acronym just so folks aren't too confused here. Now, I've mentioned templates, and again, I have a whole hour training on these because I feel they're so important. But when you create a page in Confluence, this huge list of templates pops up, 150. Space admins can go and turn those off. Space admins can add new ones. And this is another major role in my mind of admins, is to go to the team and say, hey, when you make a page, what would it be useful to have on that page automatically? And you can go then make a template specifically for that team that they can use. And again, this is a more active role of the admin, going out and talking to the team to say, hey, what do you want to go learn or do or experience? Let me help you build that template, because individual team members can't build them. You can also do things like promote them. So there's this button that says promote. This makes them easier to find. So in my more heavily trafficked spaces, those public ones, those project-based ones, I'll go through and promote some templates that I know they're going to find useful. And this makes it easier for the team to find them so they can then interact with them, and it makes their life a bit easier. So again, I'm helping the team figure out what to do. So we're going to jump back into Confluence Cloud Premium. Again, most of what I show you should be available in all versions of cloud, maybe not data center. But finance has come back to us and said, hey, we love that space you made for us, but these people need access. Can you help us? They also need pages and whiteboards, but they don't care about like databases and blogs and stuff. And there's a few templates they want to add. So we're going to pop in and explore each of these features and add some folks and fiddle with features and add templates just to help empower our finance team. And again, my reminder as a good YouTuber, if you're liking this, please hit that little like thumbs up. And if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. So I'm going to go into Finance 2 because Finance 1 is a desolate wasteland that we destroyed. Thank you to Sarah's wonderful question. Was it Sarah or Amy? Amy. Thank you to Amy's question, which was very surprising. And I'm going to pop into my space settings. So again, my little 3 dots and then space settings. And the first thing we're going to dig into is access. Now, there are 2 ways we control access. One is by group and one is by individual. Now, when we think of individual users, like let me back up a minute. When I think of providing access, I always prefer groups because then it's just reliant on group membership. Now, I have also been spoiled in that many places I work, group membership is automatic. For example, Smart INV might automatically be added to a group called users when they join the company. And if that group has view access, here's an example here, Confluence users, Smart INV automatically gets view access when they join. I, as the admin, don't do anything. It's great. However, there might be one-off cases where just one person has to be added, or maybe you don't have those group automations. So you have to come do this yourself. Now, annoyingly, as a Confluence Space admin, you cannot modify or create groups. Good luck, Amy. I hope you win. So if you're struggling with groups, you'll have to go talk to a site or an org admin, kind of the overall Confluence admins at your organization, to get help. But it's something that I, as an admin, find frustrating. But I keep a running list of what I need to change, and I go to those admins once a month to fix it. Now, quickly here to orient ourselves, all the green check marks are what they have. I made the space, so I get everything. I have all the access. I can come through here and edit this, though. And this is also where I add people. So I'm going to just pick a couple of names. I've got Andrew, and I've got Lauren, and whoopsies. So finance might have come to me and said, hey, here are 4 extra people we need to add. When you add them, by default, they just get the view permission. And this might be enough. This would be where I need to talk to my stakeholder, the people who own the space, and say, hey, what access do they need? Okay, they have to view everything. They need to add some content. They need to comment. And that's about it. Okay, great. One thing to keep in mind, the comment permission is separate from everything else. So there are instances where folks have the ability to create content. I can make a page, I can make a blog, but I can't comment on it. And this is very frustrating for users. So typically I always give people the ability to comment. And I typically always give people the ability to delete their own stuff. This is where if it's a global space, company-wide, I might not allow delete own. And if I mouse over this, this allows them to delete their own pages. Now there's another really annoying caveat. I'm going to zoom in on this text. Comments, if you give them add, they can also delete their own. So this is something as a space admin is unexpected. Like I would assume delete would let you delete your own, but kind of like how edit is mushed in with add for pages, delete own is mushed in with add for comments. So this is something that we as space admins need to be aware of, this extra caveat. So I'll typically always give people view and comments, and then depending on the space, again, typically not those global ones, I might give them add content and archive. I almost always include archive because I want people to be able to get rid of stuff they think is old or not needed. We can always pull it out of the archive and put it right back where it came from. And we'll do that in the second half. But I don't want to be a blocker. If they feel like it should be removed, I'm going to let them. The other one to consider is restrictions. Restrictions allow us to block view access or block edit access to a particular piece of content. And I'm zoomed in, aren't I? Again, depending on the space, I tend to allow people to restrict stuff. But for those global spaces or those much more public ones, I don't. And that's just so people don't accidentally hide something that's super important or super critical. And actually, I'm going to do a quick poll while we're in here. I should have done this before. So I'm just going to ask a question. It'll be a 1 to 4 rating. 1 is not very. 4 is a lot. Just how comfortable are you with permissions? And I'm asking because for me, this is one of the most confusing things. I'll just click save. And now these people instantly get access. Pretty much as soon as they refresh their screen, they're going to get the ability to come in and do whatever we checked off. So this is where I'll do one-offs. As the admin, if I come into a space and I see a lot of people in here, like a super long list, I'm going to ask myself, is there a group I could be using? And that's going to require me to go over to groups. And then I just have to know if the group exists. There's no way for me to easily look up what are all the groups. Now, groups are just collections of individuals. And we'll see here, Confluence admins has 7 people, Confluence users has 31, org admins has 5, etc. I can come in here just like I did for individuals, and I can control their specific access. This is why, Tushar, welcome, my friend. It's good to see you. We're neck deep in Confluence space permissions. This is why when the space was created, some people had admin, because these groups are automatically applied their defaults. I can also search for other groups in here. So I can just type in user and I can see all these other groups that I could pick from. Maybe I know the Loom users creators always should be in here and they should all get view. And that will mean anytime someone joins that group, they get view access. So again, as an admin, I'm not just going to blindly put in individuals. I'm going to go in and ask myself, hey, is there a group that would make this easier? Because once the group's in there, as soon as someone joins the group, they get in. But keep in mind, as a space admin, we can't control, edit, or create groups. It's very frustrating. And it looks like about half of us are pretty comfortable with permissions. Awesome. I'll take that as a good sign. There are some other accesses. Again, I mentioned guest access. Guests have very limited permission within a single space. So this might be there's a project I'm working on with a bunch of consultants. I don't want to give them a Confluence license or get them one. I can make them a guest. And they have limited things they can do. They can't add restrictions. They can't export the space. They can't be admins. But I can give them a lot more. I can give them this access, assuming it's been turned on for the instance. So if guests aren't allowable in the entire instance, I can't add them. The next one is anonymous users. This allows me to publish the space essentially to the whole internet. And I'll see if I can do a demo of this as we go. This is one I'm very paranoid about because it means anyone with a link can see it. So I'm very careful about turning this on because I don't want to accidentally expose something. That said, this is very useful for external help desks or release notes, that kind of thing. And we've got a few minutes to talk about templates. They live down under look and feel. And just a quick reminder, please keep dropping your questions in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them all. But don't be afraid to pop into chat and share what you think or share some information or ask a question. In templates, as a space admin, one thing I consider is turning them off. So I can just click this green rocker if people find it particularly annoying. Real quick access control from Smart INV. Guests are tied to the number of licensed users you have. You get 5 guests for every single licensed user, I believe. And anonymous users don't require a license. So you can just turn it on and anyone can see it. I'm pretty sure that's true. Rodney, keep me honest. The other thing I can do with existing templates is promote them. And if I click this, this just makes them easier to find. When someone starts to look through templates, they'll see a featured category, and this template will now be included. So it's kind of highlighting it, it's bookmarking it for everyone, it's making it easy for everyone to see and interact with. So depending on the space, typically a project space or a team space that'll get more interaction, I'll go through here and I'll promote the templates that I think they'll find most useful. The other thing I'll do is click Create New Template. And I will make templates, maybe financial plan. I will give the finance team a template on a financial plan. I very quickly made a very brief template, but once I save this, now everyone in this space can access the financial plan template. And I can do the same thing like promote it, so bump it up so they see it. This is something I'll almost always do with new spaces. I'll sit down with the team and say, hey, what kind of content do you regularly create? Because I can templatize the structure for you. And they kind of go, oh, wow, that's amazing. Because many times teams will just copy and paste one page and like cut things out. Chad, I'm glad I'm not the only one who is paranoid. Anonymous access does have its use and purpose. It's just, I don't want it to be used improperly. So I can make these. Keep in mind, templates live in one space. So this financial plan template is only available in Finance 2. There are ways to search between spaces. And there are also way at the bottom things called global templates. Now only, I think it's app admins can create these. So if you're a space admin, oh, my big fat head is in the way. Excuse me. Whee. I can see this because I have additional access. But if you have a template that your team thinks is useful and other spaces want to use, you might need to talk to your IT team because they can put this template in as a global template and everyone everywhere can see it. So it can be very useful in that instance. Again, I won't dig too deep into templates. I have a whole hour training on them. But as a space admin, this is one of the more important things we do because it helps the team and can impact their ability to be successful quite a bit. Okay, teleporting back in. We are at our halftime break. I need to go get some more coffee. But a couple of shout outs. I've got a Discord server we have going, supporting people in using Atlassian products. We're doing things like talking about certification exams, asking specific questions about automations. The goal is to give everyone a live chat that we can go into to all help each other out in. So that's the QR code on the left. The QR code in the middle, if you like what I do and want to support me, the easiest way is just hit like and subscribe. But if you'd like to go further, you can become a sponsor of the channel. Chad, Amy, and Sarah are all coffee sponsors. That is a tier of sponsorship. You get some fun little perks and also earlier access to my videos. So please consider that if you like this content. I have recently shifted to doing this more professionally, which is terrifying. So any support you can provide would be greatly appreciated and be a great encouragement for me to keep doing this kind of thing. And I need to figure out where is my timer. But we're going to take about a 5-minute break. I'll put a timer up on the screen. Oh, press any number. There we go. And I'll have some wonderful hold music, but I'll be back in about 5 minutes, team. And we're going to continue talking about being a space admin. So please pop on up, stretch, grab a coffee, anything you need to do to get ready for the next iteration and the next half of our session. So thank you so much for sticking with me. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't. Join us in Discord and consider becoming a member if you aren't. All right, folks, welcome back from our break. I chose that music because it was about 5 minutes long. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I hope you had a good break. I got some more delicious Kirkland Signature brand. I think we have the house roast now in my wonderful Confluence branded mug. So, cheers. All right, I hope you all had a good break. We are back into our agenda. In the first half, we covered off some more general topics. What is a space? What's a space admin? But also talked about permissions, probably the biggest single topic of being a space admin, or the one that I deal with the most, as well as templates. In this half, we're going to dig more into content management, archival and deletion, and some more advanced features that we as space admins get access to that help support our team. But that overarching idea of we as a space admin are more than just button pushers. We need to understand how the tool works and what we can do with it. So we're going to move right on. There are a number of special features that only admins or space admins will see. Some of these are only available in premium and higher right now, unfortunately, things like mission control. But they do give us a very good view of what's going on in the space. And take us just from configuring it to helping us actively manage it. Before some of these features existed, we as space admins could push all the buttons, but we didn't have a good look into how the space is being used. And that made it very hard to help guide our team and help them see what's going on. So we're going to talk about some of these specific features that we have. But first, just a general question. Have you ever lost content? And by lost, I mean, did you ever, you swore it existed and now you can't find it, kind of thing? And I'm asking because this has happened to me and I could not explain why. And this is a more niche but a very interesting topic for me. One of the tools that we as admins have is managing content. And part of that content is the homepage. Now, I don't have a specific slide for this, but I'll show you how to do this and how we can effectively break a space for most people by changing the homepage. Now, we can also do other things, though. We can see this page tree, and we have a few tools that let us more easily manipulate it. We could go into Confluence and click and drag in the content hierarchy, but we could also pop in here to reorder and see a different view of it that makes it easier for us to correct or help change it. So again, as a space admin, I'm not just sitting back and waiting for my team to do something. I'm constantly asking myself, are these pages in the best order for my team? And reorder is one of them. This lets you drag and drop, move entire trees, and very useful for bulk management. And we get these little icons. The little house icon is our homepage. And this is where I've lost content. If the homepage isn't the top of the tree, say Project Jakewill was the homepage, Robert Heen Home wouldn't be visible in the content hierarchy. You could access it through a link, you could access it through other ways, but you couldn't browse to it. And this is where I've lost content. And it looks like about half of us have lost content in a space, half of us haven't. And that can be one way it happens. Now, Data Center does allow orphan pages, pages that don't have any links and don't show up in the hierarchy, which is a slightly different challenge. But even as an admin, I can see those. In cloud, it tends to happen when the homepage is accidentally changed. And I've opened up spaces and found dozens of pages, dozens of pieces of content that are not under the homepage, effectively making them invisible. The other tool, which I also think is only premium right now, Sachin, good to see you, my friend. How have you been? Is the content manager. Now, this one takes that hierarchy a bit further, and we can see the hierarchy here on the left. But it also gives me information about the content. Who is the owner? When was the content last active? When was it last viewed? What's its status? Its labels? This gives me a different, higher level view of what's going on and helps me provide better guidance to my team. For example, this page, Project Jakewill, was last active 6 months ago. I might go to my team and say, hey, I did an audit and I found this page that hasn't been used in 6 months. I'm going to archive it for you. And they might go, oh, wow, I didn't even know that. So we can use this and other information to help our team make better informed decisions about their information, which again is another incredibly important aspect of being a space admin. Our job isn't just to push the buttons, it's to help guide and inform the team on what to do. I guess another question. So just a free-form text question. Curious if you've used Content Manager and what do you think of it? Like, what are your thoughts and feelings? It does also give us labels, which I find interesting. Um, I know many people are of mixed feelings when it comes to labels. I really like them, but typically groups I work with don't label content, making this kind of a useless column. But this is one tool that we as space admins get access to that makes it much easier for us to manage and maintain everything. So we have a request from another team that we're the space admin for. The JQuil, this is how I pronounce JQL or Jira Query Language. The JQuil project complains, the project manager complains his space is messy and needs us to help fix it. So he's asked his space admin to come help out. This is another very common thing we'll run into. Folks will use Confluence and they'll use it in a specific way or certain features, and they'll come to you as the space admin for help doing more with the space. So keep your eyes and ears open for this as well. This is a great opportunity. What I might do with this project manager is show them how to use the content tree to move things around, but then also explain I have some other tools that can help them out. So I'm going to pop back over into my Confluence, and here I have to navigate to another space. So I'm going to look for under spaces. I've got Project JQuil. Now, it is also possible that this project manager assumes I am a space admin for Project JQuil because I'm a project manager somewhere else. So if that happens, I have to go in and find a space admin or direct him somewhere else. That's another common thing. People assume I have all access to everything when I don't. And as a good YouTuber, I have to remind folks, please hit that like button if you like the content. So here is the space, and just looking at this over on the left, it does look pretty ugly. It looks like a very flat structure. Someone built out a bunch of folders that say folders are finally in Confluence. I don't know how useful all that is. I've got some drafts and some things just floating around. So the first thing I'll do is just take a look at it. And then I'm going to go back into my space settings. And here's where I get a little bit more information. Again, mission control is in premium, but I can see there's 31 content items and no changes in a week. Interesting. 2 views yesterday, but up from 0. And then down in the middle, I get some information through this activity, these different graphs. So again, this is a very useful tool because it helps me understand how is the space being used. How can I provide guidance to this project manager? And I can see nothing's been updated in a month. And there's been no new content. So this might be a fairly older project. There might be something else going on. But this is all information I can bring to that project manager. And I can say, hey, I've noticed there isn't much activity. And I can also see there's inactive pages. So there's 13 pages that nothing's happened to them in 13 months. That tells me a lot about them. And I can see a list of them. So I'm just going to click View All to see this list. And this brings me into that content manager. And it automatically filters it down by last active over 6 months ago. So right away, these are great candidates for archival or for moving or for updating. Before I do anything, because this isn't my space, I might schedule a call with this project manager or send them a screenshot or send them a Loom recording or something and say, hey, project manager, here's what I found. I found these pages haven't been updated in a while. What should we do with them? Or we can look at some of them live. I can open up summary of AAI example, and I'll ask that project manager, should this be kept? And this can make a whole separate project, a whole separate push by the team to go and refresh everything. But I can do that because I have this access in this tool and I know how to use it. So I'm going to go back to mission control real quick and see if, well, there's nothing else in there. Okay, cool. So next stop is this content manager. And again, this is just a view of the content hierarchy that I can expand and dig through, but it gives me a bit more information. So last active, 2 minutes ago, this was me going to it. Okay, fair. But this one, 3 months. This one, 10 months. So I've got a lot of information in here that maybe I could get rid of. Let's pretend for this example, the project manager said, just get rid of things you think could be archived or gotten rid of. I can just start ticking boxes. So I'm just going to pick a bunch of things. And then along the bottom, I have the ability to take bulk action against them. And I'll move over here. We'll talk more about what archiving and deletion does, but I can get rid of them all at once. I can change the order or the status. I can also run an automation against these pages. Maybe if they're too old, I want to run an automation that changes the labels or does something else to them. I can do that against multiple pieces of content here. Also, as a new one, I can make it a live doc. These are available in cloud, not in DC. But this is the one place I can go to select multiple things and then to take action against them all at once. And this is a project admin, excuse me, as a space admin is a very powerful tool because I'll frequently end up having to manipulate an entire space. And if I can just check one box and do that against an entire tree of things, that makes my life so much easier. For example, I can just archive this entire branch. And they're gone. I also have some filtering. I can filter by owner. An important one is by deactivated accounts. So if someone leaves your organization or loses Confluence access and they're the owner of a page or piece of content, that can be challenging because typically the owner is responsible for updating and maintaining things. So I'll constantly look for deactivated users. Chat, I really like bulk updates as well. It makes my life so much simpler. I joke that I get paid by the piece of content I have to archive, so I just do them one at a time. But the bulk action is incredibly useful. If your team uses statuses, which live, I think, under look and content. I don't use them, so I forget where they live. Here we go, avatars and status. This allows you to put a tag on a page basically indicating where it is in a process or the status of it. The content manager also shows that. So if your team uses this, and I think I have it on one page in here, there was one that had verified. That can be another, again, powerful tool for you as the admin just to see, hey, all these pages are verified, but they're 10 months old. Maybe we should go review them or do something with them. The other one, where did you go? In this sidebar, I forgot to mention, you can just search for settings. So I know where most of them are off the top of my head, but frequently I'll just search. The other way is to reorder, and this is available on free and standard as well. But this is a visual indication of the hierarchy. I like this because it's color-coded. Again, the blue are the pages, the purple are the folders, etc. But this allows me to just easily reorder and change where things are in the order. Now, I can't delete from here. So this is a much more simplified version of that content manager. However, it's available in all flavors of cloud. So this is something I use if I know the structure needs changing. You can just click and drag and make modifications as you need to. But this is also where if the home page has changed, you're going to see it. And I think, what am I looking for? They recently moved where we changed the home page. I'm going to pop back into space settings. I'll see if I can remember where it lives. And I won't waste too much of our time if I can't find it quickly. Homepage, hello? Well, I'll dig that up as we go. But under reorder is where you'll visually see where the home page is. And this is where if the home page isn't the top level of the page, you're going to be essentially missing information. And this is one of the only places to see it. It's also called the landing page. Confluence space homepage. But this is where I have lost content because someone went in and changed things and decided not to kind of tell me about it, which was very annoying. It should be under space details. Nope, not there. Okay, we're going to move on. So again, another big part of being an admin is helping advise people on how to update and change things. And we have these extra tools that give us a lot of analytics, a lot of access. Now, under Content Manager, I forgot to mention, you can add or remove different columns. I tend to just use the default because honestly, I forget I can change all the columns. Back to our slides, there's a couple more concepts we need to understand, both from the just to know they're available, but also because they may not work. They may not be as intuitive as we think. One of them is archiving and deletion. Now, these are very important for space health. Over time, our spaces will get cluttered and things will pop up and make it hard to use. Like as we saw in that project Jakewill, there's just a lot of stuff and it makes it less than useful to use. So we have two options. We can archive or delete. Typically, I don't give people delete access. And that's because if they delete it, they might not be able to undelete it. Because only space admins have access to the trash, basically where spaces go. I typically give archiving though. If I think of Confluence like a library is the analogy I use, archiving is just putting the book in the back room. It's not getting rid of it. It's still accessible via search. We can still return it to where it was. And so I encourage my team, hey, go through and archive things. If someone's abusing it, like using it too much, then I take that permission away. I say, no, you can't do that. But this is something I tend to provide just to help get other people to help. And this is what the archive looks like. We'll see this as the space admin, but once something is archived, it just ends up in this list. Now, in the archive, we can tick off boxes that take some bulk action. It's not as many as Content Manager. But some other important things, one was the page last updated or the content. So as I'm looking at the archive and I'm considering restoring something, putting it back to where it was, I'm going to consider how stale is it. It also tells you who did the archiving. And importantly, there's a note. This note is optional, which drives me crazy. The last thing you want is a bunch of stuff archived with no note. So if I allow my team to archive, I always tell them, please add a very quick, it could be a 2-word note just explaining, outdated content, project completed, whatever. Because this is the only information you get in terms of, hey, is this what happened and why? And then under more actions, we can restore it, and that sends it back to where it used to be. Deletion does not do that. So if we undelete something, it just goes to the bottom of the hierarchy. So important difference. We can delete it, which sends it to the trash, or we can adjust the note. So again, archival is an incredibly important concept in our data and our information, but also within Confluence. Please enable your teams to do this, but also teach them, hey, here's how it works and why you should care. Deletion, on the other hand, allows you to purge things. Now, by default in Confluence Cloud, the trash will not auto-purge. This is a good thing, because if someone accidentally deletes something, it means that content won't be automatically removed after 15 days or 30 days or however long. Instead, it's just going to sit in the trash. Now, no one can find it except for space admins. So that's the big difference. You can search and find things in the archive. You cannot search the trash. From the trash, you have two options. I guess 3. You can restore it, which puts it back to the hierarchy, but at the bottom. You can purge it, which is a permanent deletion. And by permanent, I mean no one can get it back. If you call Atlassian and give them all your money, they can't get it back. You can also purge everything. So there's a purge all. Christine, welcome, my friend. A recording will be available immediately after of the first half, so you can catch up. But welcome. I'm glad you're able to join us. So we're going to jump back into Confluence Cloud Premium because some people in Project JQL, are complaining they accidentally deleted some critical document, and they're all panicking. And they know that we're space admins, so we're going to go help them out. And as by the laws of YouTube, please if you like this stream, just hit that little thumbs up button. Also, if you aren't subscribed, please hit subscribe. Lots of great content coming, especially now that I'm a professional YouTuber, which is bizarre to say. We are back in Project JQuil, and just to orient us, I'll go back to the space. So I'm going to open up my space settings. And from here, I'm just looking for the trash, and it's found under content. I could also search for it, but I'll just click on trash. And here I can see everything that has been trashed in the space. So I've got a meeting notes folder, a test folder, and an integration page. And again, they're color-coded, so I know what they are. I can purge them. And the nice people at Atlassian have put this, hey, are you sure button. Again, if I delete this, it's gone forever. No one can recover it. Kind of period, full stop. Or I can restore it. So I would ask the team, hey, Project JQuil folks, what did you delete that was so important? Oh, our Jira integration notes. Cool. And then I just click restore. Again, it's going to make sure I want to do this. And once I click OK, it takes it out of the trash, and it's going to put it back in the content hierarchy. But the important thing to know is it's going to show up way, way, way at the bottom. Of course, it's under my head. Let's go over here. Whee! So that page has been restored, and it's back in the content hierarchy. When I do stuff like this, I try to do it when the system is a bit quiet. So if I restore from trash, I want to do it when not a lot of people are online, just so if this is in the wrong spot, if it needs to have some kind of restriction. So let me just quickly add a restriction to this. And I'll show us what happens if it's deleted with the restriction. But I'm a little bit paranoid. Like, I don't know much about this content. I've just been told to restore it. Okay, I can do that. So I tend to do this in quieter times when it's less likely someone's going to notice this new piece of content just pops into the hierarchy. So I'm just going to restore it again. It does keep the restriction, but again, it loses its spot in the hierarchy. So this can be super annoying. You got to go figure out, where do I put it? JQuil awareness. There we go. Now, the other option, again, is archival. And this is what I encourage my team to do. And that's exactly why I don't give delete access very frequently. It's because people will accidentally delete when they mean to archive. Archival has a couple advantages. We can leave a note. Project completed. It's the length of an old school tweet, 256 characters or less. And then that piece of content is gone. Big difference, if I go back into space settings and I look for the archive, again, under content, archived, I'll get a little bit more information about it. So visually, this is a different setup. I can also search for Jira integration. If I go up to search, I can see it right here at the top. And then in advanced search, there's a filter to show this archived content. If I find archived content this way, I'll get this, hey, this content is archived, you can restore it option, as well as the note. So again, this is why I tell people, please archive things instead of deleting. It makes them much easier to find and manage. But also as a space admin, when I go in and look at them, I'll see that note. I'll see the last updated. And then I have some options. The biggest difference is restoring archived content puts it back in the most recent parent by default. So this is something I can't do when I undelete something or pull it out of the trash. Here I can tell the system I want it to go under a new parent or keep it under the old parent. So this is, to me, is much more useful than deletion. It also doesn't run the risk of me accidentally purging it. I can't purge from the archive. So it means there's no way I can accidentally wipe this content out permanently. All right. Any questions on archival and deletion? Before we pop back into our beautiful slides. I'm running short on slides, so I'll follow up with some tips and best practice before popping back into Confluence and continuing to explore some of the options. But remember, space admins are more than just button pushers. We have that access, but we really should be making ourselves known to the team. Depending on the space, I will introduce myself to the team. I typically work on the team, but I'll make sure that the project admin knows who I am, that the manager of the team is aware that I exist, that team members know what I can do. And I also actively monitor those more important spaces. I will go through once a month, once a week, depending on the space, and double check content and just see what's going on. This gives me a good idea for what I can help the team out with, or it flags things. It shows me, hey, someone deleted a critical page. Was that intended? But also go get hands-on. And I'll keep bringing this up, but if you can, go into space settings and just click around. So I'm just going to pop back into Confluence, and we're going to go through some more of the things a space admin can do. Everything we've covered up until now is what I use most frequently, most commonly, but there are other things we can do. One of them is archive the entire space. Oops, and I'm zoomed in, aren't I? Sorry. Um, some good feedback for Rob is remember when you're zoomed in. We can archive off the whole space. This I typically don't do with those global spaces, those ones that are useful for everyone all the time, but I will archive off my project spaces after a time. I might archive off some of the team spaces if a new one needs to be created or if the team changes. Again, archiving a space is like archiving a page. It doesn't delete it. It's still accessible. You can still dig it up. And this is very useful for project managers because they can go through later and do their lessons learned and explore information. We can also trash the entire space. Now, again, a reminder here, after 2 months, the space is gone permanently. So this sends it to the instance trash. I think an app admin or site admin can restore it, but I'm very careful about these big red buttons that say trash. We can do things like export the entire space. I personally have never had to do this. And I'm trying to think of a good use case for this. Short of making an offline backup or something, I have not run into a use case for just sucking the entire space out into a set of PDFs. We briefly spoke about the avatars and status. The avatars is a new addition here. This is what lets you see other people viewing a page or a blog post. So this is a recent feature where you'll see how many other people are viewing the page with you. That can be disabled. Oh, okay. That can be disabled at the space level. And same thing with content statuses. Personally, I haven't found too much use in statuses just because the groups I work with aren't disciplined enough in their process. But this can be very useful for a team to understand what is the state of this particular content. Converting pages, I have never run into a problem because I've always been on cloud. And I honestly haven't bumped into an instance where I would need to use this particular feature. And related content is something that I just find annoying, honestly. This is what adds an automatic macro at the bottom of every single page to show content that might be related to what they're looking at. So these are the general features. Again, I don't touch most of these. I'll focus on the features. Oh, I forgot about those, didn't I? Which I can turn these on and off. So if I disable blogs, calendar, whiteboards, and folders, in this space, those things won't be available anymore. So if I go to create a folder, it just won't exist. Now, again, that can be super frustrating, that the space admin can always go in and turn these back on, but I tend to flip them off just to clean up the sidebar to help ensure my team doesn't get cluttered up with stuff that maybe they don't care about or they don't need. All right, folks. A couple last minute things now that we're near the end. I need your help. Just curious how you think these sessions are going, how I can do better. Some of this feedback was used to do things like add the polling and the Q&A in the chat. Other feedback was used to try to condense the Q&A. But if you have a minute, would love your feedback in that form, just how I can make these sessions better or make new sessions. I'm constantly looking for new things you all want to learn. And that's why this session was a bit longer to help try and fit in more content. I do also have a Udemy course on just Confluence. This is 4 hours on using Confluence. It covers everything we talked about here, as well as how to be a Confluence user and Atlassian intelligence and automations and a bunch of other things. So this is another way you can help support what I do. If you or someone you know is looking at learning Confluence, I created this particular course thinking back to how I learned and what do I wish I had had access to when I started using Confluence. So this is an amazing starting point if you're interested in learning it or just need a good reference. And this coupon gets you the best price I can give you on it. And just some next steps. We covered a lot about being a space admin, but please review the recording if you need it. Christine is available, and it takes a few hours for YouTube to process, but it'll be available at this link on this channel for you. Check out Atlassian's community, community.atlassian.com. Lots of great people in there, but please get hands-on. Please make time to go into Confluence and poke around as a space admin. For me, a lot of it's second nature, and that's only because I've been doing it so long. So the more you get in there and experience it, the easier it will be for you to use it and help support your teams. Also, please like if you haven't liked the video and subscribe. That helps other people find this content and also tells me if you think this is useful stuff. And if you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member. We've got a couple levels. We've got some of the coffee sponsors in here to help feed my coffee addiction. But you'll see me creating more content, so your support is really appreciated. I do want to thank you all. We all stuck around for an hour learning about what it means to be a space admin. I'll be over in the Discord right after this looking out for questions and things, so join us over there. Otherwise, I'm going to get some wonderful hold music going for the last couple of minutes, but I'll leave the chat open. So if you have other questions or want to just keep chatting, please do that. I'll be here with you for a little bit, just kind of cleaning things up and getting ready for whatever's next. So thank you all again for joining me. Please like if you haven't, consider becoming a member if you want to support me, and I'll see you here again very soon, maybe even tomorrow for the ACA 910, I think it is, ITSM and JSM. Also, if you have different musical preferences, please let me know.